To this point, the origin of the skill-free pattern of human mobility is still unclear. Here we introduce one novel explanation. In this slide, we provide the results of underlying street networks and the traffic flows on them. Some empirical analysis and computer simulations validate human movements are shaped by the hierarchical structure of underlying street networks. This finding implies that, given a street network, the movement patterns generated by human beings and by random walkers are the same, which means it's not mainly related to human decisions. Finally, we extend our review to include some works based on human movements, accessibility, and navigation. Some researchers also find an anti-intuitive conclusion. It's surprising that, as the two plots show, the global congestion-aware strategy does not perform better than the local congestion-aware strategy when people navigate on the transport systems with a large load, which means that more real-time data about the whole network might not be able to improve your efficiency. Here comes the summary and outlook. Based on our studies, we can see that the studies in this field are mainly in the data-driven stage, and in the future, more attention should be projected on theoretical foundations. As we mentioned at the beginning, topological analyses have developed more quickly than geometric studies on transportation networks. But there is also a good trend. Some researchers, some growth models have begun to notice their interactions. Besides, exploring network cellular structures is also very important to understanding the planarity of grounded transportation systems, such as the railway systems and street networks. In the future, more geographic constraints and urban factors should be considered, such as the population density distribution, land use type, and so on. I also would like to point out another aspect. As an old subject, understanding the evolution of transportation networks is interesting, but still a big challenge for us researchers in the field. In the third part of our presentation, we also propose the human dynamics. As a new subject which is still on its infancy, it has earned many attentions from different perspectives. The skill-free nature of human mobility is detected. Some researchers believe it's shaped by the underlying transport systems, but the origin of the skill-free nature is still unclear. To detect the origin in the future work of human dynamics, the bottom-up perspective would be a valuable and effective method. On the other hand, we also need to point out that the results we summarized here are mainly on the collective level. So the statistical mechanism cannot be directly extended to individual mobility patterns, because the latter ones are based on the personal decisions which are supposed to be more complicated. As we mentioned in the presentation, understanding the dynamic process on networks is the utmost aim of studying complex transportation networks. In this sense, exploring the individual mobility decisions would pose huge impacts on different dynamic processes on transport networks, such as epidemic dispersion, transport optimization, and so on, making it a very important topic in the future. At last of this presentation, we also would like to point out two subjects that we didn't touch in this presentation, but are very important in the future. The first one is the traffic congestion. How to cope with the growing traffic congestion in modern big cities is an inevitable question for urban planners and decision makers. The second one is network visualization. As to the author's knowledge, little work are found about network visualization until now. But it's believed that visualization can help people understand the complexity and depict underlying patterns of complex transportation systems. So we can expect that more attention could be paid on this direction in the future. In the last two slides, we summarized the general directions in this subject. Before ending our presentation, we also would like to list our own research plans on the next stage. Firstly, we will compare the planar networks and non-planar networks, trying to explain the effects of planarity and geographic factors on shaping the hierarchical architecture of transport systems. And we also explore correlations between some fundamental network measurements such as the centrality, clustering coefficient, the path length, and urban social factors, and some other demographic factors, and the basic planar properties of urban transportation systems, such as the cell degree, roundness, form factors, and so on. Based on those works, we also need more detailed and complete time series data to model the network evolution process, trying to find a region and pattern of spatial heterogeneity in transportation systems. Finally, we plan to concentrate our focus on human dynamics. We will adopt the agent-based model to study the impacts of human decisions and preference on navigation and congestion in the real world. In this process, we will compare different real urban street networks instead of pure simulation environments. That's all. Thanks for your time and attention.